Yeah, g'day everyone. Welcome, TryPod family, to the TryPod Live with Winny and Clarkey. We are here to preview everything round 25 in the NRL season. Benny's here already. We're a live show, and Benny was here before we were even live, so shout out to Benny. We appreciate you, mate. Over to my co-host, Winny. How are you going, mate?
I'm okay, thanks, mate. It was a bit of a mediocre round 24 in the sense of best bets, only 2 and 2, and we lost the mixed matchup. But at least the same game multis have been elite. It's fair to say this year we won another one, 525. I don't think I've ever tipped a player to have more than one try in a same game multi. Rarely can find value those ways, but we had Ronaldo getting a double in the first half, no less. So that's been a shining light. And I do still have a bunch of best bets to share out again for round 25.
Yeah, a one-legged Mulatalo still cashed your best bet and broke my heart there. G'day, Ryan, Paul, Harry. We are a live show, so we do want to see those comments roll through as we're talking. What have you got for us this week in the way of best bets, mate?
I have 5, and they are all favourites. I'm taking the Cowboys -4, which is the alt line on Toppy, $1.83. Main reasons being at home, off a bye, bit of revenge getting pumped by Sharks earlier this year and just having to win that game. They can't rely on Penrith handing them one later this year. Must-win situation with Nane back as well. I'm going to take Cowboys laying a short number. I'm going to lay a short number with the Roosters as well. $1.83 on Sportsbet -3.5 is the best way to get at them. I just think their season's alive. You get Crichton back in off the bench, but the losses for the Eels, particularly losing Moses and maybe losing their spirit, now it's very unlikely they can go any further. I just think one side's revitalized and one side's season's probably just not going to pan out this year. So I'll lay a short number with the Roosters. It showed me a lot last weekend. I'm taking the Tigers, if you can believe it. The bottom place Tigers against my Finns, -9.5 at $2.02 on Dabble. And I'll back that right now as well, or very soon. So you can actually copy that from Jacob Wynn. And I know it might seem like a lot of points for the worst team in the comp, but the Tigers have actually been going really strong last 6 weeks. You can't say the same about the Finns. They've got a bunch of key men out, and the Tigers are at home. I think this is a rare opportunity that West can win, and I think West will win well. And then to Sunday, I'm taking South, so I acknowledge it'll be 5 straight weeks I'll be on South. Most of them have not been successful weeks, but this is such a big game. And with Hastings, I think unlikely to play, I'm taking the Bunnies now. Note this bet, $1.83 first half head-to-head. The beauty of it, as you can see in the fine print, dead heat rules apply. So it'll be, I think, a half payout if the scores are level. So as long as the Souths are not losing at halftime, we won't lose that best bet. We can either win it with a lead or basically essentially a push at halftime. And I think that the Rabbitohs, who might be bolstered by 1 or 2 key middles returning, just have no excuses in this one. Yes, they've been traveling. And I know Bradman Best is back, but I just think the matchups across the board, Souths can cancel out what Knights do best, whereas the Rabbitohs have some trump cards that the Knights will not be able to deal with.
I am with you on 3 out of 5 of those. Absolutely lock in. I won't say which ones. We'll keep it for the preview itself, but love 3. And the other 2, I was kind of on the fence, but I was very close to going the same way as you. We'll jump into our round 25 NRL preview in just a moment. Before we do that, we're going to hear from Tristan Merlehan, the Top Sport of CEO. He's got some exclusive market insights for us.
As well as being the Top Sport of CEO, I think he's the CEO of Top Sport. Let's have a listen.
G'day everyone, it's Tristan Merlehan here from Top Sport, and we're into the very late stages of the NRL season where there's plenty of games which have a lot of finals implications, particularly the Thursday night game between the Cowboys and the Sharks, and then the Eels-Roosters game is obviously very important for both teams' finals chances, as well as what is one of the games of the year so far, the Knights against the Rabbitohs, where the Knights are showing a lot of good recent form and the Rabbitohs are still wobbling a little bit, but both sides here with a win could put themselves into a really strong finals picture. The biggest move of the weekend by some margin has been the Tigers against the Dolphins, where the Tigers open up a pick'em and now they're -8.5. Obviously a lot of Dolphins missing from that game. There's a few other sizable moves with the Panthers 19.5 out to 21.5, as well as the Raiders firming up slightly as well. Just having a look at the Matildas, they're obviously on tonight. We know how big that game is and how it's captivated the public's view of sport, and we're getting so many new people engaged in the game tonight. It's going to be a really good battle between England. Semi-final is going to be massive, where the Matildas are 335 to win in 90 minutes, England 233 in the draw 290. England slight favourites to qualify as well. Just on a betting front, the Matildas games have probably been about maybe a 30-40% of our hold on a rugby league game, so certainly really good. I'd expect this will be our biggest holding game of the tournament so far as well. So plenty of punters involved. There's going to be a massive audience on TV and at the stadium, and hopefully the girls can get the result. Good luck if you're having a punt on the weekend, and of course, gamble responsibly.
Are you muted?
I am indeed. Thank you very much. Of course, after this, the Matildas will be playing, which is going to be an awesome game against England. And we didn't want to miss out on the action. I believe you've drafted up a very special mixed matchup for us. What have you got?
Yeah, I might have an NRL mixed matchup as well, but I've certainly got a custom bet that we can play tonight. If you're listening, if you're obviously watching us live, you've got it like just under an hour and a half. If you catch this before 8 p.m. on the Eastern Standard Time, you can play this if you like. As we said on the recap, we're on the bandwagon. That was the highlight of the weekend, actually. The tension in that penalty shootout, those scenes, incredible. And the match tonight is that much more monumental, a chance to make the World Cup final. And the fact that it's against England and as they were on Saturday night, the Matildas, as you heard from Tristan, are underdogs to progress. Let us know in the comments if you've got any bets on this game yourselves. I've got an opportunity through Toppy to create a special, which I want to share. So it is the Matildas to score a goal in an earlier minute in the game tonight against England than the minute of the final try in Cowboys Sharks. And that is $2.25. You can up to 100 on that. On Toppy, our promo code is TP Live. So if you think about it, if the Tillies score in the first 60 minutes of the match tonight, we're going to win. There'll be a try in the final 20 minutes tomorrow night. Just about chalk it up. Certainly if they score first half, If the Matildas don't score for, say, 80 minutes of the match tonight, and keep in mind they went 120 minutes without scoring on Saturday, so there's the risk. The bet will be dead before tomorrow even kicks off. And where it gets interesting is if they score somewhere between the 60th and 80th minute tonight, then we'll have to wait and see and sweat out tomorrow night. And it could be a bit of fun. But it is around the 50-50 in my view, and $2.25 is a juicy way to get some extra action if you're watching and cheering on the girls, as a majority of our country probably is tonight. And hopefully when we do our next pod, Clarkey, Sunday night, we might be able to come up with something special for the World Cup final. Spain will be there. They won dramatically last night. And I did share them to make the final in our group at 375. And hopefully against Australia, I'm daring to dream how big that could be. Maybe we get a public holiday as well. So very exciting times. But we don't want to look past the English Lionesses who, were the tournament favourites once USA was booted out. I can't wait for tonight. Of course, we've got a massive round of rugby league that we're going to discuss before we do get that game.
Yeah, soccer/football, whatever you call it. It's been great to see its rise. The men's World Cup, people were in the streets at midnight watching those games and celebrating. Now we get our women's home World Cup, and it's just gone to a new level. And fingers crossed, as a country, we can keep that moving along and keep that support there. That'd be brilliant to see. Let's jump into our specific round 25 preview. It all kicks off Thursday night with the Cowboys v Sharks up there in Townsville, and the line is set at -4.5 in the Cowboys' favour, who welcome back Jeremiah Nanai. Todd Payton has confirmed today he got through training. He will be fine to play. For the Sharkies, they welcome back rookie Tommy Hazelton. And you're keen on the Cowboys here. I'm also keen on them. I'll let you go first and I'll give my take.
So first I'll make a little bit of an argument for Cronulla, which would be they come in with better form. They've won their last 2 games while the Cowboys are off back-to-back losses. Val Holmes is still a notable suspension, because we don't mention him this week because he's already missed a game. You can't forget about that. And Townsend, from what I see on social media, loves his golf, really gets into it, but maybe doesn't spend as many hours working on his goal kicking in his spare time. So that's your concern with the Cowboys. However, that's the case for the Sharks, but I think that's counteracted by the fact that North Queensland plays at home. They are so strong up there. They're off a bye that's so valuable this time of year. They need this game so much more. My simulator has the Cowboys as low as a 15% chance of making the finals if they lose this one. It is hard with the simulator because you don't know what you're going to get round 27 in Penrith. But if you're North Queensland, you can't rely on that, that you're going to get the first team pulled there. You don't want to go into round 27 needing to win in Penrith, because that could be a graveyard. And then I said revenge factor as well, because the Sharkies towed up North Queensland earlier this year at the prison. Nane, I think his injury has coincided with the Cowboys slipping in their attack. So the fact that he's back, even if he's not quite 100%, is such a big addition. You've got the a bit of extra history between these sides. What an epic extra time week one of the finals clash we had between them last year. And if you do think about last year, some may say that Cronulla got the Cowboys in Townsville last season, but just remember that no Origin, or the Origin players for the Cows, were all rested. So I don't read into that one. The Sharkies were a best bet last week. I know they're a tough side that usually makes you earn it, and they have the capability of pulling an upset off here. But I feel much more strongly that North Queensland will get their defence in order after Brisbane kind of pulled them apart last game. And off a bye, if your defence is stout, and then you've got the likes of Drinky, Dearden, Robson, they should be able to do the rest and win this game by at least one try. My best bet, minus flat 4 points.
Let's start with a bit of analysis here from Harry Potter. He says the Cow has a bad record against Cowboys. And I agree. He's 100% right that they've actually never beaten themselves in an NRL game. Of course, he did correct it right after. I'm only joking. But this is a really important game for both sides' finals hopes. It was only 2 weeks ago. I thought the Sharkies were a chance to miss out altogether. And the important factor is absolutely what you said. We've got to keep in mind, round 27 for the Cowboys, unless that minor premiership's wrapped up, which it doesn't look like it will be an extremely tough game, one that you do not want to be playing a grand final to essentially get into the finals. So if they lose here, I believe it could be season over. Sharks are riding a 2-game win streak, and I do read into that slightly, but I think it is worth offering that perhaps the Rabbitohs and Titans didn't offer too much resistance. Maybe I'm seeing that wrong. Maybe our viewers are sitting here and listening and saying, no, the Sharks shut them out. That was all the Sharkies. They played so well. The other sides couldn't get into it. But the way I saw it, the Bunnies were really off, and the Titans just did not offer much at all. So it's a 2-game win streak, but I do believe the Cowboys will test them. Another factor is the Cowboys coming off the bye here, where they are 2-0 this year, including a win over an understrength Panthers side. It is also Jason Tamalolo's 250th game. When it was his 200th, they brought his dog in the stadium. I want to see his dog there as he runs out again, Winnie. That was an amazing moment, seeing his puppy on the sideline. But on all serious, he is one of the last few players from that premiership side in 2015, and you can really see that the boys do respect him. It's a really big milestone for JT. I like to think they turn up for him. They've also won 6 of their 7 at home this year, so a really good home record for the Cowboys. So I'm feeling him as well. I had him here at the line minus 4.5. That was on Toppy, but we got it at minus 4 elsewhere. So that's my play as well.
Still Toppy, but it's the alt line. That's the only difference. So it's a few cents lower price, but we don't lose if they win by exactly 4. That's all that is.
Perfect, mate. I back it as well. That's my play on this one. So we've got a double play. Both of us absolutely keen on it. Friday kicks off with the Warriors v Manly at Mount Smart. The Warriors have opened as minus 12.5 favourites at the line. They welcome back Charles Nickel-Klukstar and Bunty Afoa. Wade Egan is named to play. Mitchell Barnett is out. For the Seagulls, Harper and Tuolangi are in. That's because Parker and Ben Travojevic are out. Mate, how do you see this one? I believe there was a best bet there. You're on the Warriors. Was it to win by 12 or more?
You know what? You are right. People might have seen it come up on the screen. When I read those best bets out, I felt like that didn't sound like I read 5 in my mind, but I feel like I forgot to say that one, but it came up on the screen. You are correct, and it's fine because it's the same line everywhere, but the best price is Warriors to win by more than 12 on Better. So they've got the line at minus 12.5, $1.90, but under margin, win by more than 12, last time I checked, is the same as minus 12.5, $1.93, and that was also a best bet for me. So thanks for catching that. I mean, I probably would have mentioned it again, but you reminded me that I didn't say it off the top. My apologies. So my reasons why, I'll just get into my full reasoning in this game. It's a massive danger game for Manly. We discussed it on the recap. They came in with a bold plan against the Premiers, and they had to pull a surprise upset to keep their season realistically alive. They certainly did pull surprises, but as we know, they fell short. This is a tough trip to make off the back of that. New Zealand's at home. We know that they are very strong at home, but haven't covered a line in the last couple of games. So by their standards, have been disappointing. In fact, you'd probably say New Zealand's last 3 games, they should have done better. And And last week, of course, all 8 favourites won head-to-head. But when I look back on round 24, I would argue the Warriors were the closest to being upset out of everyone. And they know they can't simply flip a switch for the finals. They need to raise their level right now. The coach has mentioned this. And speaking of coaches, their former coach, Daniel Anderson, we understand, his terrible accident he's had, and that this weekend is about him and fundraising, which is going to be really important to the Warriors as well. I see in the comments there, sold out game. You got minimal roster disruption for the Warriors other than getting CNK back, which is, of course, a plus, whereas Manly lose, a sturdy player in Brad Parker. And look, Manly's season, how do you want to rate it? It hasn't been that good. It hasn't been that bad either. And, of course, they lost Turbo. So I'm not going to knock Seabold, but I'm probably just about to. I haven't forgotten what his Brisbane teams looked like late in those seasons when they were out of contention. They gave up on many occasions. So you can kind of argue Manly's been in the hunt up until now. Similar rationale to a few of my best bets last week. I know we had mixed results, but I explained why I wanted to go against these teams that were traveling, that had nowhere to go and questionable motivation, and may give in when the going gets tough. And I think it will be tough for Manly. Hence, my best bet is the Waz 13+.
I can see a comment from Colt. He says this best bet is a surefire, I think, and I agree. I'm on the same best bet. My play here was Warriors 13+, which for all intensive purposes is pretty much the same as what you're rolling with there. The Warriors are on a 5-game win streak, and they enter this game against a Manly side that you have to say they're out of the finals race. They just need too much to go their way. And so, as you said there, the motivation definitely has to be questioned. Interestingly enough, they have won their last 3 against the Warriors, but they are yet to play this year. And we know this year the Warriors are a different gravy. They're in much better form than previous years. Manly are also 11 out of 15 against the Warriors at Mount Smart. So historically, it's not a road trip they fear. They've actually gone over there and played pretty well. But in my view, they should fear it this time around for the reason that the Warriors have just plodded along in their last 2 games. They've just got the win, but they never really pulled out all the moves. They never really played to their potential. And I just think they're too quality for that to occur 3 weeks in a row, especially at home. So I can see the Warriors flying a really big shot here. I can see this being one of those games where the Warriors win by like 30, a complete blowout. This could be the blowout game of the round for me, so I'm going to play them 13+ in this one. We next go to the Eels v Roosters at CommBank. The line is set at -4.5 in the Roosters' favour, who welcome back Angus Crichton and Sam Walker as their 18th man. For the Eels, they're without Mitchell Moses, so Dejan Arce moves to halfback, but they do welcome back Mike Acevo and Regan Campbell-Gillard. Some big returns there for the Eels, Winnie, but you're still keen on the Roosters in this one.
Yeah, RCG back just in time to see the Eels 2023 demise. I suppose, I talked about what a horrible error in judgment he made, dropping those knees in and getting that suspension, although you could probably say they weren't beating Melbourne or Brisbane away, even if RCG was there. What a rough year it's been for Para, really, when you look back at, all of their best players have missed games for, random reasons, whether it's Dylan Brown, it's RCG, now it's Moses. Even the fact that Gutho just got picked for Origin out of the blue, and missed a game there, it didn't help their cause. And so it's been very hard for them to repeat what they were able to do in 2022. Look, another guy who hasn't repeated what he was able to do last year's Crichton. He's had a tough year, so I'm not expecting a big boost, the fact that he's returning via the bench. But the bigger thing for me is that the Roosters have won 2 in a row, and let's be honest, everyone wrote their obituary, really, 3 weeks ago. And I think including you and I, we said they won't play finals. But the fact of the matter is, this is a very winnable game. The Tigers next week, and it shapes up that they can go into round 27 and have a path to the finals through South Sydney. And on recent form, because of the Rabbitohs, that looks winnable. But I think if you're the Roosters, you just love to be alive going into that game, and you can kind of make that your grand final. And this will sound funny to say because the Roosters were, preseason favourites, but it would kind of be a bonus for the Roosters to make the finals now, having been written off by everybody. So they don't have to think like, how do we play our best footy in September and beyond. They probably just have to think like all in, trench mentality, get ourselves to that Bunnies game, because we know we'll be up for that one. And if we make the finals, come what may, I suppose, after that. So I just kind of think I've got this Tricolours team that's all in and focused, and it's looking – I don't want to overreact. I've got an Eels side that got pumped last week, and I've got a Roosters side that ran away with it second half. But it is a funny thing at this time of year where teams are, sort of what they show them their true selves, and we see what they've got left in the tank. And the truth is that the Eels are kind of spiraling and the Roosters may just be ascending. So I feel as much as the Dolphins fell away, that might have helped play the Chooks into some form, which I think they carry into this one. The line is mostly 4.5, but still 3.5 on Sportsbet. So $1.83 was the price of the best bet.
Yeah, well, my best play here was Roosters minus 4.5. If you can give me 3.5 and get it up by a flat try, then I really do like that. You look at the Eels season, and it's just been a roller coaster. There's been some highs, but mostly it's been suspensions, tough draws, injuries. Dylan Brown suspended. Then the hooker you signed to replace Reid Marnie's out for the season. And so the point I make is there's been a lot more
Zach
negatives.
mentions Madison. Madison, that was bizarre as well, because he didn't want to pay $3 or $4 grand. At least he's got a bit extra money in his pocket.
Yeah, well, he can shout a sick Mad Monday. So that is an absolute bonus for the Eels. But, the final nail in the coffin of the Eels season of unfortunate incidents is now their marquee player, Mitchell Moses, being unavailable for the rest of the regular season. Whereas the Roosters are probably on their season high. I know that sounds weird because it's just 2 wins in a row, but they do welcome Crichton back, who's had a tough start to the year with personal issues. Sam Walker is fully recovered from the ACL now. They look ready to go. They're looking for 3 in a row here. The Eels do have a good home record, which I was cautious of, seeing they were 7 from 8 at CommBank, but the Roosters are 6 from 8 there recently. So I think that data there kind of negates each other out. The Roosters have averaged 28 points in their last 2 wins, and the Eels' attack, particularly without Moses, was noticeably off. Unless Dylan Brown was creating it all, nothing really happened for them. So I am going to give the Roosters a chance here. I think there is an ember for their season. It's certainly, there's no bushfires going on here, but there's a slight ember that they could light with a win here. They did start slow against the Dolphins. By the end of that game, they looked to have that same attacking flair back, which we saw when they pumped the Titans. So I'm going to keep it super simple with my play here. I'm just going to take Roosters at the line, which I know Harry will be happy with. I saw a comment way earlier in the show saying enough with this halftime plays. And don't forget, every week we're going to be cooking up a same game multi thanks to Better. Our Better sign up link is in the show description here live, and if you were listening as a podcast. And of course, if you do sign up, make sure to message the TryPod page on Facebook and let us know. But before you sign up to any bookie, think, what are you prepared to lose today? Set a deposit limit. For free and confidential support, call the number or visit the website on screen. Now, we don't know which game we'll have the same game multi for just yet, so stay tuned to the socials, particularly the TryPod group on Facebook.
So Eels Roosters is Friday night game. I'm prepared to say that when I've got a best bet on the Friday night, that's the game I'll be targeting, and I'll try and do something Roosters-centric.
Love it. Yeah, we're both on the Roosters, so it makes absolute sense there. Stay tuned, guys, for our Better Same Game multi there on the Eels v Roosters. We kick off Super Saturday with the Tigers v Dolphins. We're at CommBank Stadium again, so I wonder how that turf might be. The line is set at minus 8.5 in the Tigers' favour, who have no changes to their side. For the Dolphins, Lemuelu, Kenny Bromwich, Hammer, Ray Stone, Jeremy Marshall-King are all out. Bostock, Robert Jennings, the greatest try scorer of all time, Aitken, Graham, and JJ Collins all return. Huge changes for this Dolphins side, Winnie, and you don't think they can get it done. You're with the Tigers.
Yeah, mass changes for a side that didn't have the greatest depth to begin with, understandably. And it's still been a successful year, but they're running out of fuel. And I kind of suggested a few weeks ago that maybe it was kind of front-loaded preparation for the season when it was most important to get fans behind them, to get the buy-in, to generate momentum. It was in everyone's interest for this club to play the best footy they possibly could early. It's funny because you'd think new combinations, they'd almost need more games together to get better. But I just feel, I'm only speculating, that that emphasis was certainly put on, fitness and physicality being max and pushed to the max early in the year. And that got them, several memorable wins, which is why as I said, it's a success no matter what. But now they're kind of stuttering to the finish line. Maybe they got one or two performances left in them, and I would tend to think these could be in home games where I don't know if getting West away in Sydney is the game that you're gonna go all in for. And when you've got all these key players out, it's even tougher. On the other hand, let's look at the Tigers. You can go back 6 weeks actually, and I want to go game by game really quickly. Lose by 24 to Cronulla. Well, that was 12 all at halftime. Cronulla got a lot of tries late. Lost by 16 to the Knights. It was also tight in stages. They lost the Spoon Bowl to St. George. Well, St. George will bang up for it because they didn't want the spoon. And it was in St. George, and there's only one try in it. Lose to the Rabbitohs. That's a game where you're only down 2 points with 20 to go. Lose to the Raiders by 4 points away, and the Raiders scored 2 tries of forward passes. Lost in New Zealand last week, and as I said, it was commendable. They pushed the Warriors, and you made the same point on the recap, Clarkey, that the Tigers have actually fought really hard. They've got no outs compared to everyone who's out that you mentioned for the Finns, and the Finns' form has been patchy. So I just felt like, how can the bookies make this line high enough? I'm not saying it's impossible for the Finns to win. Maybe Bennett plays off that there's no pressure. All these key players are out. They can go and play free. And there's also a degree of the Tigers being able to compete is one thing, but they know how to win. And can they be ruthless enough to win this by double digits, which is what we need? My best bet's -9.5 at $2.02 on Dabble. And, that's the risk, but I'm still willing to take it. A daytime game. I just think the Tigers, who haven't won a game since May, which is going back something like about 10 matches in a row, if I'm not mistaken, can't waste such a good opportunity that they do have here. And I really feel like the form has also ticked up, and it hasn't been a coincidence since Appy got back from the broken jaw, Luke Brooks got back from the hammy, and then he's combined with Laurie in the halves. So I know there's points in the Tigers, and I think there'll be too many for my Finns to hang with.
A huge change to a Dolphins side here in what is already a season that is really fading out. I previously did say that I can see them spurring a few upsets on this run home, but with this injury toll, I might have to change that prediction. To their credit, against the Roosters, they fought hard. The Stone sin bin there kind of changed that one. They lost by 2 points to the Knights and 1 point to the Bulldogs since their last bye. So they have been fighting and trying in these games, but the Tigers play the exact same way. They don't quite win, but they fight hard. It hasn't been absolutely horrible for the Dolphins. So I look at the Tigers, and I just think that even if they win here, they're still in last place. They'd still be 2 competition points behind the Dragons. They just, all the news around their head coach now, which they've denied for months and months. Now he is leaving, which the club was, throwing a defamatory claim, saying it's defamatory saying this stuff. It turns out the journalists were right in the end again. So I'm going to tip the Tigers here against the depleted Dolphins side, but I don't feel strong enough either way to give an official play. I would only be playing the Tigers if they were down like -3.5 as a best bet, Winnie, just so I know that they don't have to really get on a run. They can just win. For me, they compete hard. Yes, they're close in games. So are the Dolphins in a lot of games. So I couldn't quite get over either side over the line for me. Tigers, if I have to give a tip, no official play. Can we skip this next game? It's Titans v Panthers at Seabus Super Stadium. The Panthers have opened at -21.5 favourites. That's because Jerome Luai, Tyrone Peach, and Mitch Kenny all return for them. Meanwhile, the Titans, AJ Brimson could return, we're hearing. Keanu Kinney moves to fullback, Campbell to the halves, Kieran Foran and Tanner Boyd, their regular halves, are out. Aaron Clark is also out. Fotuaker and Arlick return. And young Tommy Weaver is named for his debut there at halfback. Who have you got here, mate? This is a really tough one to tip, isn't it?
Yeah, this was the toughest one to break down. Look, actually, it's tough because you don't know what to make of the Titans lineup. I've got a halfback I haven't seen play before. You don't know if Brimo's coming in. You do know Foran, Boyd, Clark, they're out. Fotuaker, that is a big boost because you got Jolliffe back last week. So in terms of your forward pack, at least, that's going to be pretty strong. I'm back to all favourites this round again. And maybe I should be on another favourite here. Maybe I should just take Panthers -21.5. You got Luai back. They're probably going to pummel the Titans. It's a quick deck, Seabus Stadium. I want to shout out GOAT admin Dan Lever and his punters club. They've been hooked up by Tristan. They're going to be at this game in the Toppy Lounge. No doubt they'll enjoy themselves and see plenty of tries and plenty of great action. I'm not going to talk anybody out of Penrith the way they are rolling. But as for why I didn't actually play it myself, the line is in the 20s, so it's no small line. The Titans are at home, so I would like to think that a home side is going to come out and try their best for 80. I mentioned your forward pack of the best you've had available in weeks. And, you might get pumped, but it could also be a cruisy Panthers win, something like 36-16, and you're actually still within the handicap. So I think that's reasonable as well. So maybe there's some brave punters out there who might jump on the longest line of the week as well. I couldn't say that's crazy once you're into the 20s.
Yeah, we do have a lot of X factor, like Jaden Campbell, Keanu Kinney there, but it would have to be like that Bulldogs game, right, where the Doggies scored a couple late when the Panthers were like, we've already won this by plenty. To be brutally honest here against my own side, there's no way you can tip them to win this game outright. I don't think there's a team you can tip in the competition, though, to beat Panthers right now, to be fair. The only advantage the Titans have here is they are so inexperienced, particularly around the spine, that they're going to take chances and they're not always going to play the safe option, which we saw for Manly does work slightly for at least stages against the Panthers. Not quite, right? So still not enough to give me any great confidence here. I'm tipping Panthers. I think they get the job done here absolutely easy. My confidence rating for the Titans perspective is probably half out of 10, the lowest it's ever been. Just because we are 2 from 8 against top sides this year, top 8 sides rather. Those wins were the Broncos and Storm, and both sides did kind of underestimate us, to be completely honest. Panthers have won 8 of their last 9 against us. Titans have only won 2 out of 7 out of their last 7 at Cbus Super Stadium. And most importantly, the Panthers have not conceded a second half point in their last 3 games. Their defense is on at the moment. And I just think a completely new spine of Chris Randall, Jaden Campbell, Tommy Weaver, and Keanu Kinney, who have never played together, it's going to be really tough to crack that Panthers defense for sure. Looking at that recent form stats, anything you want, there's no reason why I can back my side here, unfortunately. No official play for me. The line's just a bit too big. We could dig in and show a little bit and, maybe only lose by 20 and then you're spewing. So no official play for me on this one, but Panthers win it easy.
And I just want a side note, because this was one of the biggest stories of the week. We did an instant reaction Sunday to the news. You've re-signed not only Tino, but Dave Fafita. That's a positive. Fafita, 3 years, $3 million, roughly, contract extension.
Yeah.
And Tino, mega deal, 10 years, $12 million. My instant reaction, did you have to pay that much? You could have saved $2 million. Surely at 10 years, $10 million, he wouldn't have said no. That was my instant reaction. Having thought about it for a couple more days, I hate it. I think that's crazy to give such a long deal. And I've got to be honest, I actually understood the 10 years, $10 million for Taumalolo at the time. I defended that at the time and said he's the best in the game. And I think I made a point that you made on Sunday. The cap will continuously climb up. It won't be that bad. Taumalolo's still got 3 or 4 years on that deal and is not, the best forward in the game like he was. When you're paying Tino $1.2 million a year, he has to be the best forward in the game. Where he's in the conversation now, but he's not even that now. So it's not going to hurt for hopefully several more years, but at some stage it is, and I really don't like it. I'd like to see what others have to say and to give you the floor as well, having a little bit more time to consider it.
I think he's probably top 3. We probably have to have him behind Haas and AFB. But the difference is Tino's also our captain, right? And I think for every negative of paying that amount to keep him, it still outweighs if we had have lost him. And what we have heard from Buzz Rothfield since that is the Storm basically said, we're going to offer you really similar to the Titans for 10 years. His manager went to the Titans and said, he's going to take this unless you can beat it. So the ball was kind of in the Titans' court. Do we lose our captain to the Storm and have never a chance of getting him back for the next 10 years? Or do we just pay a little bit more in a salary cap that's going to keep rising? It is a lot of money, though, for a front rower. It's a hell of a lot of money, and I really wish the club didn't put that Justin Holbrook clause in the contract, because I was comfortable with having Tino signed until the end of 2026 on $950. That seems a lot more decent, because you think that's a difference of $250K. You can still sign a decent bench prop for that money. Jimmy Jolliffe is solid as for us. He's probably on $250-ish. So fingers crossed it doesn't come back to bite us, but I do see your concerns. They are very valid. As a Titans fan, I'm optimistically hoping and believing that our club's made the right decision there. Dragons v Storm is our next game. We're at Wynn Stadium, Wollongong. The line is set at minus 15.5 in the Storm favour. No changes for the Storm. For the Dragons, they welcome back Zach Lomax and Francis Molo. Another big line here. Did it tickle your pickle at all, or you're not really interested in it?
Look, I considered it. Melbourne, what really annoys me is Melbourne was a missed opportunity last week, and it's my fault. I doubted them before the year that they'd be in the top 4. At this point in time, they almost certainly will with their position on the ladder and that bolstered points differential, thanks to the big win against the Raiders. Because the words that came out of my mouth 7 days ago was it was Melbourne's biggest match of the year, and I expected one of their best, if not their best performance of the year. Now, it was a double-digit line, yes, but right there, if you believe that about a side, that's the mother of all spots. That should be a best bet. So that is my fault for not playing the Storm, and of course they absolutely rolled. And now punters will no doubt expect more of the same because they're playing the Dragons. But I have to say, with a line where you've got to score 3 more tries to cover, I just have a bit of a feeling that the Dragons could get up for this. St. George was sloppy in Cairns, but that's just been typical of the Dragons. They weren't hopeless, though. They kind of had their moments. You get Lomax and Molo back into the team. And while they have nothing to play for in the standings, once again, they are at home. So they have their home fans to play for on the day. The Dragons never do anything pretty. They make things look hard. They're a hard side to back. They're a hard side to get around. I'm sure not many punters will. Even I'm not brave enough to take the plus 14.5. But all I can say is I have this similar feeling about St. George that I did a week ago, and I said it that about West, and the line was actually the exact same number. And that doesn't mean this game's going to be as close as West made it last week against New Zealand. But Saturday night at Winnie Stadium under lights, I think it could actually be closer than others expect. That's why I've left it alone.
We're at Winnie Stadium, but Winnie doesn't have an official play. Cameron Munster is in some doubt on baby watch. Even without him, I think they get the job done. I can see Harry says, is Pappenhausen playing? Their director of football came out today and said he'll definitely play Q Cup. The likely replacement looms as Jonah Pezzett. Regardless, I think the Storm win. They could realistically rest Munster if they really wanted to in this one. The reason why I don't have an official play here is, in terms of either side, the Dragons continue to show fight in their losses. They have been rolled a few times this year, but in a lot of their losses, as I said it on one of the other shows, I think it's 6 games this year they've lost by 6 or less. So they have been trying hard, and that's why I'm not interested in a double-digit line at home. But I must acknowledge, after all we witnessed with the Storm last round, you're crazy if you don't think there's the potential they cover it. Dragons are only 2 from 6 in Wollongong this year, which has really dropped. This was a real fortress for them in previous years. But yeah, I don't feel too strongly either way about the line. I do have a play here, though. Going to go Jerome Hughes, anytime try scorer. A lot has been made about his form lately, that he's the form player of the competition. If Munster's there, if he's not, I don't think that changes the way Jerome plays. No concerns there. He just seems like the sort of player that is involved in everything the Storm do. He's always around the ball. They're always making offloads, line breaks. Nelson's taking it to line and immediately looking, where's Hughes off my hip? And so I looked at his career strike rate. He's 5 out of 5 against the Dragons. He's never played them and not scored. And he's around $3 most places. So I think that's a fair price. That's my official play for this one. Now, this one is probably game of the round for me. It's Knights v Rabbitohs. We're at McDonald Jones Stadium in Newcastle. The line is set at minus 2.5 in South's favour, who welcome back Michael Cheekham. For the Knights, Jackson Hastings is named. I don't want to speculate too much, but I'd say he's not playing with even a low-grade syndesmosis injury. And Bradman best returns for them. You like the Bunnies in this one. I like them as well. Why do you like the Bunnies, though?
Yeah, beauty of a game. How Channel 9 have scored Raiders Dogs at 4 p.m. when this is also on a Sunday afternoon. I'm not sure. Knights come in on a 6-game win streak. You know what's kind of sick? Not cool sick, but sickening. Is that preseason I tipped ladder handicap 17-1 Knights. Most improved team, in terms of 2022 ladder, 14-1. Best of the bottom 6, 6-1. And they're all great bets, and they're going to come second in every single one of those fields because the Warriors have just been a little bit better. And importantly, the Warriors have won the close games where, by and large, the Knights haven't. However, a quote comes to mind. There's an NBA general manager who's actually been in the news this week, Daryl Morey, and he once said something I think is quite prophetic. Good teams don't win close games, they avoid them. And that is what the Knights have been largely doing lately, is dominating, aside from Type 1 in Perth. Meanwhile, Souths have been totally unconvincing. And I've watched them closely because I've been on them for a best bet. So if you follow the pod, I'm sorry, you've watched them closely and you've suffered with me 4 weeks straight. They have not covered the line. Luckily, we had one halftime line. I can't remember who commented before, but we had one halftime play on Souths, and lucky we did go halftime. That was against West. They covered the halftime, not the full time. That's not why I'm playing Souths halftime here. I just find the edge of being able to win the first half or being level and getting our money back is better than having to lay a full 2.5 points, because I know this game could be tight. If the line was 1.5, my best bet would have been Souths minus 1.5. But it's weird. Even though they're like $1.75 to win everywhere, or $1.72, $1.75, nobody had minus 1.5 in the $80s. So there you go. The bookies sometimes just want to rip you off. Some bookies had minus 1.5 lower odds than head-to-head. So you've always got to dive in and check. But you can't always trust that they're going to give you a good price. So that's my justification for the first half line. But as for why I am going back to look for my money where I lost it with Souths 5 straight weeks, Hastings is a big point there. I doubt that he's going to play. If he does, I don't think it's effective. And then I know Bradman Best is back, but I want to talk about how the Bunnies match up there. I'm not going to lie. When Ponga's got the ball, I'll be puckering for sure. And I know Souths have toured Australia and could catch up with them at some point. But I do think with a bye up next week, it's just an all-in spot that you've got to roll up the sleeves. Totola and Sele, both in the reserves. I feel a high likelihood you'll get at least one of them back with the importance of this game. I think if you're backing Newcastle, you're backing a side that's looked as good as they can look for 6 weeks. If you're backing Rabbitohs, they've looked as unimpressive as they could be. And I actually like that. And I know I'll get a lot of pushback on this tip, but these are all reasons why I think the line has gone too far. And if I just finish with matchups, Clarkey, KP's been unreal. But we know what Latrell can do, so I think he can cancel him out. Best is scary as well, but he is marked by Campbell Graham. What a matchup that is. I think that can cancel out. We've got another interesting matchup, a game within a game. The try scorer list toppers is Johnston with 21 this season, one ahead of Dom Young with 20, and they mark each other. How good's that going to be? And I could say those two could cancel out. But who on the Knights cancels out Cody Walker? And who cancels out Damien Cook? And who cancels out Cam Murray? That's the difference for me. These big game players in a game where Souths really need it. Coming into the match, they're 8th on the ladder now. But if the Cowboys have won on Thursday night, as I predict, Souths could come into this game on Sunday outside the top 8. No mucking around. That's why I will back them. Again, even though it's against the Knights team, that I was probably one of the first people on the bandwagon, and now I've gone against them for the last couple of weeks. Me, I just have to be contrarian. Once everybody likes something, I don't like it as much anymore.
I don't have an official play either way head-to-head in this one, but I am favouring the Bunnies largely for everything you just said. I'll give them my play at the end, and I want to get your live reaction to it about what you think. But this one does loom as game of the round for me, just because both sides are more than capable of turning it on in attack. The Knights are averaging a huge 37 points on their current win streak. That is slightly skewed to the two Bulldogs wins, and Bunnies are averaging 25 points this season. I actually do see both sides here kind of fighting fire with fire and a high-scoring contest ensuing. As for a winner, I do favour the Rabbitohs if they view the Knights as a big side. Given their win streak, I have to think they do. It's just about their attitude. We've seen this Rabbitohs side turn up and beat the Broncos, Panthers, and Storm back-to-back this year. No other club can do that. And we know that if the Bunnies bring that mindset, they probably will win here. They have won 12 of their last 14 against the Knights, and the Knights have not beaten the Bunnies at home since 2011. Alex Johnson has 15 tries in his past 6 against the Bunnies. And Dominic Young is averaging more than a try at home games this year with 21 tries from 19 games. So my play here, AJ and Young, anytime try scorer, and points over 48.5. Do you rate it, hate it? Is the points a bit too high? What do you think about
I knew you were going to have those try scorers. Look,
Yeah.
I don't typically like overs in a game with so much importance because this is kind of like a finals game. So, I respect it. It's 2 p.m. You know, it's going to be beautiful conditions there. So, certainly couldn't rule it out. And Dom Young, if he does score, it will be the most ever tries by a Knight in a season, right? So he'd love to do that in front of the home faithful too.
Absolutely. And just that record for AJ, 15 tries in 6 games against the Knights. So if you are considering a multi in this one, they are definitely 2 try scorers. I'd absolutely weigh up regardless of what your remaining legs are. Final game of the round. We got Raiders v Bulldogs here at GIO Stadium. The line is set at -9.5 in the Raiders' favour, who welcome back Jared Croker. Ethan Strange is out. Tom Starling and Schiller both return. For the Doggies, Preston's unavailable, so Corey Waddell comes in. Ryan Sutton, Raymond Faitala Mariner also make their return. I look at this line straight away, Winnie, and I just think that the Raiders' biggest win this year is 10, right on that amount. And as much as we were counting the Bulldogs last weekend, they let us down. I think that line's a little bit too large for the Raiders. Do you see it that way as well?
Yeah, it probably is if the Doggies turn up, but that's the tough one for me. In fact, I'd say these were the worst 2 teams of round 24 in terms of effort. And the Raiders were labelled as much by their own coach. Ricky called them embarrassing. Now they get to come home. Look, nobody thinks that Canberra are the 6th best team in the comp, but they do still sit there on the ladder. So we would all agree that they're still too good for the Dogs, and they should deal with Canterbury here. And I did back the Raiders a couple of weeks ago at home to West, and the line was similar. I think it was actually 10.5, and I thought the fact that Canberra hasn't beaten anybody 13 plus is probably why they will. Can you believe it? They're 6, but not once this year have they actually had a win where they felt comfortable, like in the final 5 minutes. Everything has to be hard work for them. So maybe this is the week where they come home and take their frustrations out on the Dogs. But on the other hand, like on paper, the Dogs are really not that far away from Canberra, and maybe they do rebound. I mean, I'm not going to guess. That's why I don't have a play on this game, because they totally no-showed in Newcastle. It meant nothing to them, despite the fact that the Knights had humiliated the Dogs. I thought there'd be a response there, you know. And I go back to when I already addressed our results from last round. Like, if Canterbury comes in and fights the Knights there, we only needed over 14 points. We win the mixed matchup. And if they were within 12, we would have gone 3-1 best bets. So we could have had a really good round if not for the dismal Doggies. And so what do I expect? I don't know. Like, it's late in the year now. I'm not certain. I know good teams bounce back from disappointing performances, but I don't know about bad teams. Don't always. Sometimes bad teams just go on skids. So I'm not going to. It's a bit different to Souths, where I think there's still some life there. It's a matter of when. You know, I'm not going to be back in the Dogs each week in hope. That's why I left it alone.
Yeah, it's a really, really tough one to make a play for. I have come up with something. It'll be interesting to see whether people like it or not. Straight away, I mentioned, I look at that line. I think it's too big for the Raiders. It matches their biggest win margin this year. And although they did come against the Dragons, you'd say the Doggies have probably shown a touch more than the Dragons this year. But I think a lot of people will be looking at these two sides and where they are on the ladder and thinking, you know, this is a bit of an easy one. But really, they both have negative for and against. They both had down moments this year. And it's make or break for the Raiders. All the pressure is on them. There is no pressure on this Dog side to come in this one. There was pressure on them last week because of what happened against the Knights. And I thought that pressure might, you know, sort of turn into a great performance for them. It didn't. Now the pressure's off and it's completely on the other shoe. How does Ricky Stewart respond? You know, he's kind of played a lot of his cards this year that coaches typically like to save towards the end of the year. The halftime sprays, that we were embarrassing, that we've got to look at ourselves in the mirror, the referees have robbed us. He's played every card in the deck. And so I just wonder if he comes and, you know, prepares the complete opposite this week to try to get the Raiders back on track, how does that mess with the team's head? So I went back and I looked at the Bulldogs. Last time they were smashed by the Knights, even worse. How did they respond? They actually rebounded. They won 36-32 against a young Bunny side where they went into halftime up by 12 points. They then matched it with the Broncos in the opening half of the next week. They went into halftime down by 4 against a Broncos side that they were doing really well against until their halfback got knocked out by Cobbo. So my play here, Bulldogs plus 4.5 halftime and total points under 45.5. I can't see either side scoring too many, and I can see the Bulldogs responding here with no pressure on their shoulders. Do we have a mixed matchup as for the NRL yet, or just the Tillies one? I don't want to miss it this week.
We did. You're right. We should. I just couldn't get it organised in time, and then I felt we've got this one special one for tonight that people have got about half an hour to still back if they want to, which I may be able to get on the screen really quickly. Right, this Matildas into Sharks Cowboys. Tristan will still let me create one, so I do want to say we've given you the mixed matchup every week in this show. I'm sorry that we haven't got a strict NRL one to share with you live, but stay tuned. This is where it will benefit to check Clarkey's page and the TryPod page and the TryPod group, or whether you follow Instagram, Discord, Facebook. If I create one, I'll try and get it done by tomorrow or Friday at the latest, and it will be posted. I can even post it on YouTube as a post. So try and make it really easy for people to find. So that could be coming in the next day or two. You're just going to have to tune in. Otherwise, it is the just the Matildas tip that you can get on now, and give the video a like if you're cheering on the Matildas tonight. We've got, as I said, just over 30 minutes till kickoff, so everyone can do their thing and bunker down and get nice and comfortable and cheer our Aussie girls on.
Mate, it'll be absolutely everywhere. Look to the skies is what I say. We're going to get one of those planes that does the clouds. Look to the skies. Look everywhere on social media. We'll have the mixed matchup as soon as it is available. But for now, that's all we've got time for on the show. A big go, the Matildas. Fingers crossed we can get another win over England. And best luck with all your bets this week from myself. Thank you very much. And over to you, Winnie, for your famous catch cry.
Nothing more to say. So Lego Matildas.